So we're rolling, and we're gonna start this off the way we usually start it off, especially when it's with a new guest.
Yes.
So I'd like to first and foremost welcome you to Talking Slop.
Thank you.
That is the platform where we exchange and share. And the reason why it was set up, all right, let's go back. In fact, Talking Slop, what is Talking Slop? Talking Slop is another way of saying talking shit. I don't know about you in Jamaica, but where I come from, a lot of people talk a lot of shit, including myself.
I think it's everywhere you go, you find that, yeah.
I acknowledge that, but I also acknowledge that sometimes when talking shit with my brethren and we're just chatting and vibing, no plan, it's not a meeting, you know, we just come together and vibe. Sometimes divine things come out of that, life comes out of that, new life, new ideas. And some of the best times talking shit is like when we go, yeah, let's do this, we're gonna do that, you know, you get inspired. And then I know I have a background in food growing, horticulture, so I know in food growing shit is really important. Cow shit, horse shit,
Yes.
you know, it does the same thing. You get rid of it and it brings new life again, you know what I mean? And then in life, just in your life, you might go through shit sometimes.
Definitely. All of us do,
Right,
at some point.
Yeah, so shit is really important, and as you know, if shit feeds the soil, makes everything run again, then you should also know that you're just a big piece of shit. You know, and you're gonna come from the soil, you're gonna go back to it again, and it's a humbling experience. And mushrooms have supported me in understanding some of these ideas, but also the compost heap, and you know, and all of just things in nature. So that's why we set this up, just to talk shit.
Okay, let's
So
talk
it's just
shit.
that's what I'm saying. It's just there's no. I don't have no notes, no agenda, no nothing.
Okay.
We just vibe. What was really important about when I set this up though was that people could start to see people who look like me and you come from similar places where me and you come from internationally, just so we can start to have mature conversations about this. So if you was to type in, I don't know, mycology, mushrooms on the internet, you're not really going to see people
like us,
right? So that's why this platform was set up. So we talk slop wherever we go, but we also tie in mycology and psychedelics, and I believe, if I'm not incorrect, that you have some of that in your pocket.
Oh, definitely,
You know?
definitely.
Yeah, you got some mycology, you got some psychedelics in your pocket. So that's why I thought it would be really important to have you here while I'm here, talking slop and sharing what we do.
Well, I'm happy to talk this shit with you.
Alright,
Yes.
so we're just starting. I've done my little intro. That's all I do from here. That's planned. What you're now going to do is just introduce yourself, tell us what you are, what you do, how you do it, and then I'll just jump in and we'll vibe, man.
I mean, introducing myself, so I'm Citigenus. I'm 27. Well, I'm about to be 27 in October. And so my job is I grow mushrooms, I facilitate, and more recently with the company that I work with, I've been doing logistic work. So I've pretty much been growing mushroom for the past 4 years, a little over 4 years. And I don't know what else I would be doing if it's not for the mushrooms. So I always like to tell people that the mushrooms found me, because prior to started working on growing the mushroom 4 years ago, I didn't know what psychedelic mushroom was. So it's like they found me, because the story about how I got involved with mushrooms were, I was in America for school for 8 years, and I went through a really hard time. So I was like, I didn't want to stay in America. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back home. And since my degree was in criminology and sociology, I was like, okay, I might as well join the army or be a police or something of that sort. But it wasn't really what I wanted. That wasn't really my interest or anything. So when I came back here, a family friend of mine, he was starting a company that was hosting psychedelic mushroom retreats. And I was like, he was like, do you want a job? And I was like, no, this sounds crazy, because I honestly thought mushroom was crazy white people shit, no joke. I thought it was hippie, and I didn't know there was a medicinal benefit from the mushroom, that you could get healing from it. So I was like, no, that sounds crazy. But then I saw the retreats, they started to take off, and I saw people were getting help, and the guests, they would talk to me, since my family were the ones who were hosting the retreats. And I would see that people were getting real help. I could see it in their body language, even their posture, everything. You could tell there was something going on. But I think with the mushroom, if you don't take it, you don't fully understand. So at that point, I couldn't tell what was going on, but I saw the difference. And I was like, I'm gonna take this job. And to be honest, at first, it was more of a money thing. I needed money, because I didn't have a job then. So it wasn't I didn't have the love for the mushroom at that point, because I didn't even know what it was. And then I was gonna take the mushrooms, and then I found out I was pregnant. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait till after I have this baby to try the mushrooms. So a month after my son was born, that's when I took my first dose. And ever since, I've been convinced that the mushroom is the best thing that you can do for yourself. It has been the best thing I can do for myself. So.
Wow, wow. It's really powerful.
Very powerful.
And we're gonna get there, man. You just jump right into
Oh.
right into it. And yeah, man, nice.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
So but let me ask you, because what I tend to want to inquire about was, before you encountered mushrooms from this perspective, what was your views on mushrooms? How did what role did mushrooms play in your life?
I mean, honestly, as little kids growing up, there used to be these little white mushrooms and they would turn black. So we would like step on them and we would say it's duppy powder. So people think it was associated with like obeah, witchcraft, that kind of stuff. I had no idea there was like medicinal mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. I didn't know what that was, but I knew like the ordinary mushrooms just like growing wild from the cow poops and stuff like that. But psychedelic mushrooms, never knew about it.
So duppy powder, that's the first I've heard that one. I've heard duppy umbrella,
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But why duppy powder? Do you know where that comes from?
I think the fact that when you step on the mushroom, like there's this black powder that's being released, so people think it's like duppy. And also with the mushrooms, I'm thinking that in the past people would like take the mushrooms and like the effect it would have on them, they would be like, oh, this is obeah, like you're hallucinating, you're hearing stuff. So they would be like, oh, this is crazy shit. So I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah, man, that's how I feel as well, especially when I heard the term duppy umbrella.
Yeah.
I was like, what the little spirit?
Kind of makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess over the, well, I'm guessing I know that over hundreds and thousands of years now, the relationship that we have with mushrooms have changed. You know, people, you know, back in the days who were foragers that go out and find their food, they would come across mushrooms and had knowledge of the mushrooms. And then, okay, I'm seeing a little, what was it? You have ferrets or something here?
Oh, mongoose.
Mongoose.
Yes,
Right,
yeah.
see, a lot of people, it's the first mongoose I've seen wild in my life, man.
Yeah, that's a mongoose.
Yeah, mongoose, okay. I was like, that's a big rat.
No, it's a mongoose. Yeah.
Okay. But what I'm trying to get to is that we don't need to, we can do what we want at the end of the day, but I would like to see the narrative change around mushrooms.
Yes,
that it went from a point where we had loads of knowledge about mushrooms because they were foragers and people
Yeah.
knew the good plant from the bad plant mushroom, and then we've got to a point where we're more disconnected from that, even to the point now if you think of mushroom, like I was at a conference and somebody said, you know, before they knew about mushrooms, their idea of mushrooms was that any mushroom that grows out of a tree is poisonous.
Okay.
You know,
A lot of people think that here too. They're like, oh, it's poisonous. They don't know it's edible and stuff. No, they have no idea about that.
so I think with that plus the, you know, it's duppy powder and all of that, it's really loaded in a negative way more than positive. So like you said, you wouldn't know it's medicinal and beneficial. So a big part of it is trying to change the narrative,
Yes.
so we can tell different stories
True.
about mushrooms rather than be because you take it and you see things
Yeah.
that's to do with bad spirit
Yeah,
or bad
obeah,
vibe.
witchcraft, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
now we're doing it, and now we see, and you come back, you're like, okay, maybe it is, but it's still
Yes,
that's what you call it,
Mhm.
you know. But we have to understand that that's from another perspective, maybe a religious perspective, a political perspective,
Yes,
why they
yes.
didn't want us knowing and learning about these things. So I was really inspired to come here and know that this is a mushroom place. I said to your mum, if you don't, I know you must know it, but this is sacred land.
It is.
This is sacred land, man.
Yes.
And to meet and find a family that are involved in this is really inspiring. So that's why I'm asking, you know, how was it growing up, thoughts and, you know, about mushrooms, and, you know, it's loaded in that way. What about even cuisine? What about food? Did you
I mean, honestly, I think 2 years, but no, it was last year that we started to grow like edible mushrooms. So what we did, we grew pink oyster and white oyster, but nobody knew how to cook them. Like people around here have no idea about it. Because when we actually started to sell them, it would be like all white folks or foreigners who would buy them. And we had a couple restaurants in Kingston that would buy some, but people locally, they have no idea how to cook it. Even myself, I didn't know how to cook it.
Okay.
And then I learned.
Okay. So what I'm seeing is like a trail or like new history is being created through mushrooms.
That's
you know,
it.
like
Yeah.
your mother said, you know, this is the first place that the retreats took place in Jamaica, you know, and you know, it's where he was growing first things like, well, it was the first, you know.
Yes.
And there must be a time where obviously you didn't know about this stuff, and now you're just running and you're doing your thing. So what was the inspiration after you said, "Oh, I come in"? My friend was working. I done it for the money. Initially, you needed money. Fair enough. It makes sense. But you saw the people being inspired. But what made you say, "I'm gonna do it"? And then what happened when you done it, man?
I mean, what made me want to do it, as I said, I saw the people that were getting help, so I'm like, I'm gonna try it for myself and see what's happening, because people would tell me about like pragmatists operating on their brain. It just didn't make sense. So I was like, okay, I need to take this medicine and see what it does. And when I first took it, what happened was I had a brother who died when I was 7 years old, and I turned into my brother while he was drowning, because he drowned. And I went through like all the struggles. I felt like I was suffocating. It was like really difficult for me. But at the end, it was all like peace and calmness. And like ever since that day, I don't like think of my brother in a sad way. I don't get sad about it. Like I feel at peace with it. So I was like, wow. And even as a mom, as I said at the time, I had like a 1-month-old baby, and I'm like, I was such a nervous wreck. I'm a paranoid person. I mean, I still am, but I've calmed down a lot because of the mushrooms. I thought I had to like quit my job, because the minute I didn't see my son, I thought he was gonna die, and I was so worried. But the mushrooms have helped me calm down, and sometimes I go away from him for 12 hours, and I don't even like think about him in the sense that I'm like, oh, he's gonna die, I'm not there. So it has helped me with my anxiety and stuff like that.
And was that your plan? Is that why you wanted to do them?
I mean, honestly, I just wanted to do the mushrooms to like kind of understand what the people were like saying to me, like the guests that took the mushrooms. Like that was my main goal. Like, what are they talking about? I need to experience this for myself, and it's the best decision I made ever. It has helped me so much. Even my mind, like I'm an overthinker. I still do overthink, but I notice my mind is moving slower, so that's good. I feel like sometimes my mind is going like 1,000 miles an hour, so it has calmed down a bit. Yes.
And how do you find it afterwards? You know, like you're saying it's a bit more. Let me ask you, I'm gonna be direct. What I was really inspired by when I was speaking with your mum as well, she was like, "Boy, you jumped into this thing first, and then you inspired other family members to do that." And I said to your mum, you know, you've got all of these retreats and things happening which are good for people who need them, but who better to hold you or hold space than your family members?
I know.
You know,
because I've always like encouraged my mom to take it, even though I didn't take it at that time. But just the stuff that people would tell me, I'm like, Mom, this could really help you, because I know she struggled a lot with my brother after he passed and stuff. I'm like, you need to do this. But she was like kind of nervous, scared. So I was like, you know, I'm not even only doing this for myself, even though I needed to understand, because if you're working with the mushrooms, you need to understand it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it because I want to find out what the guests are telling me, and also like to help my mom. So I kind of did it so I could tell her about my experience, so it'd be easier for her to take it.
And how have you found that now that you take it, your mum take it, that your relationship, how is it?
Our relationship has been much better, because me and my mom, I want to say we have a love-hate relationship. Like, she's my best friend, but I think we're so much alike. Like, we yell at each other, you know, we're always like arguing and stuff, but she's still my girl. But these days she understands me on a deeper level, because I feel like when you take the mushroom, you can relate so much better. And there's a certain struggles within the mushroom that what the mushroom has helped us with. Like, both of us have gone through it, especially with my brother. And she told me about her experience when she took it, that basically my son was like sent to help her. And I really do see that. Like, she's so close to my son, and he reminds her so much of my brother that died, and they have like this special bond. And because she loves my son so much and I love my son so much, like that makes our relationship 1,000 times better.
Nice, man, nice. So without encouraging, or I like to encourage, but without promoting, do you feel, because I always use the example of like, you say I live here, yeah, and I'm doing mushrooms and it make me feel good and nice, and then I'm gonna start with my family. That just makes sense, you know?
Makes sense. Yes.
And then, so in the yard now, the whole family, everybody's feeling blessed with it's working. And then your neighbours there, they're going to be like, whoa.
Exactly.
What's going on over there? You know? And then you be like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Then it's spread out in the wider community and stuff.
So do you think Jamaica would be useful in Jamaica?
Oh my God, definitely. No doubt. Of course. It'll be useful anywhere you take it.
Anywhere, okay.
Yes.
So, but could you share more about that? Why, like, we want to, because what's really interesting for me is that mushrooms are growing underneath your feet. You're allowed to grow them if you want to grow them,
Yes,
and
yes.
you're allowed to take them if you want to take them without getting into trouble here. And there's a lot of things people do here, I know, that gets them into trouble, whether they do it consciously or not.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we've discovered is that there's just a lack of education as to why people don't know about mushroom,
Yes,
whether
yes.
it's to cultivate them for growing food, for medicine,
Same
or
here.
to journey, you know. And if we're to get through to people in Jamaica, from Jamaica, we're going to need to educate, you
Oh,
know,
definitely.
educate them in
No,
ways.
I've noticed that for real. It's the education aspect that is really missing from Jamaica. A lot of people have never heard the word like psychedelic or psilocybin. Like they don't know what that is. Cause most of my friends, I'm the one who like introduced the mushroom to them. Cause they would be like, "So what are you doing with your life now? You know, everybody wants to know what you're doing after college." So I would tell them I'm working like with the mushrooms and stuff, and they're like, "What's that?" And then they would be like, "Oh, like crazy white people shit." Like a lot of people really do think it's like hippie stuff. And I'm like, no, guys. And I explain to them like the healing properties of the mushroom, the benefits. I tell them my personal story. And I think that's what really gets people, like when you tell them your own experience versus just like what you read online and stuff. Like that personal story helps them.
Okay, so you've had your experience, you shared it with your friends. What was your friends saying? Like, I mean, did they take that? Have they stepped in? Like you said, you're giving it.
I mean, at first, a lot of them were still hesitant. They're just like, no, it's like they didn't care. They're like, okay, you did it, whatever. But nowadays, especially since the pandemic, more people have been reaching out to me. They're like, oh, so tell me more about the mushroom and stuff. So people are more into it now. And also because like the retreats have become popular in this area and people are hearing about it. And obviously a lot of them, they, even though they don't directly work with the mushrooms, for example, they might be employed by the hotel or they might provide transportations for the retreats that are being kept. They hear the stories, so they're more into it now. They really want to know now.
So what do you think if they heard it from somebody looking like you?
They'll be more encouraged because honestly, when I did hear it from like white folks, I would just be like, oh, it's probably just a white people thing. But on the retreats, we've had like several African Americans and they've really inspired me to like be more into it. I think it was about a month ago, there was this African American who came on the retreat and he was like saying to me like he just wished there was like more people of color involved in this. And I was like, every time there's a retreat and I see a black person, I always get so excited because honestly most times it's just like an all white group. So, and I think we really need it as black people. Like we truly need the mushroom. And it's there for us, yeah.
Man, that's exactly how I feel, and I could be straight in the sense where that's why I'm here. You know, I'm a mushroom man, and they're like, you need to come to yard,
Yes, yes.
and you know the work needs to be done in yard, and then it will have a butterfly effect, like I was saying earlier on. You know, we can start here in Jamaica, and then my family, we're from Barbados, so then we're gonna go
move out.
Barbados, St. Lucia, Dominica,
everywhere.
yeah man, because we're all going through our own struggles, but there is something unique about our story. You know, African people are in the Caribbean now, and now you got me, I'm in the UK. We have this journey that's very unique, and it's never been done before. So we didn't know that a lot of the things that we were doing were in most cases negative for us. You know, it's like, you know how it is. If I take a plant from the UK and I bring it here, or I take a plant from Jamaica and try to take it to England and grow the plant,
can have a negative
I take this mango, I just take this mango seed and pull it. What do you think is going to come from the ground?
I mean, it might come up, but honestly, it might affect the other stuff.
Right. And if it does come up, which I really hope it does come up, I've got to want to feel like that. I've got to want to feel like I want this plant to grow.
Yes.
Yeah, firstly. And then if I want it, then I've got to take care of it. Right.
You got to put the energy into it.
Right. So imagine when you put the plant, or you take a human being from somewhere and you put it somewhere, and you don't want to help it, and you don't help it.
You don't nurture it.
Right. Then you just left it. And it does survive.
It struggles, a lot of struggles. Yeah.
And that's just normal for the plant. It's normal, and that's like with the people. It's just normal. So a lot of our struggle is just minor. Just keep it moving. But in essence, it's a heavy load that some of us walk around. All of us walk around with. Some of us just deal with it and handle it better. So I know you shared some, but your load, because that's what I always say with me. Mushrooms, the first thing I say, people say, where's it done? Where you go? I says, listen, don't worry about all of that. The main thing is it lighten my load, man. My load, I just like, what?
But I always tell people that too, because sometimes my friends are like, oh, but you still have anxiety or whatever. I'm like, you don't even understand. It has lightened the load. Like, I still have the load, but it's much less now. So it's not like a quick fix. So you take it one time, you're going to be better forever. Like, that's not how it works. So I try to explain to them, it's, you know, you got to work on yourself.
And let me ask you, was this something that you done with like with a, you know, a psychologist, psychotherapist, or how did you learn and then do it? Did you do it by yourself?
Growing the mushrooms or just
Taking the mushrooms, yeah.
I mean, when I took it, there was, I think, 2 therapists present. So it was during a retreat. So that's when I actually took it. So they asked me, they're like, oh, do you want to take it while the retreat is going on? I'm like, okay. Because I kind of like the group setting. And I like the fact that there wasn't like, I wasn't working with people that I really know. Because I feel like I'm not good at expressing my emotions. So if it was like with family members, I would be shy, I would hold back. So I was happy it was like with mostly strangers, people I wasn't familiar with. But there was 2 psychologists that were present.
And do you, when you, I don't know what you do, but you might still take mushrooms now. Do you still use a psychotherapist or to help you with your...
I haven't used the psychotherapist. It's been a while since I've talked to one. But usually when I take it, I'll just take it and it's either me by myself or like with some friends, but not therapists.
Okay. So it's kind of, it's like you had support to start off with, but you've got to a point now where you can...
I've taken it, I would say maybe around 20 times where there was like a psychologist or something present, a therapist, and then the other 5 times it was by myself or with just friends. Not in a formal setting or anything.
And you're saying it's lightened your load?
Oh my goodness, yes, it has. I remember not even like, it's been after every mushroom trip, I've felt like I'm floating. That's how light I feel. It's like I'm not even walking on the ground. Because I know I have a lot of stuff like built up inside, because when I went to America to live, I was living with host families for the first 3 years, and then I went to college living by myself, and that really messed me up. Because even still, I have a lot of stuff that I need to get out, but has lightened the load.
Okay. And are you happy to work through your load that you got?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm determined. I'm happy to work through it, everything. Need to get it off me so I can be free.
So a lot of people say the same, and I want to ask you the same and just hear what you've got to say as well, man. So isn't that scary?
I mean, honestly, I would say no, because every time I've gone into taking the mushroom, I've never been scared or anything like that. And I feel like I deserve a better quality of life, so I'm like really determined to work through it. I'm not scared. I wouldn't use the word scared. That word has never come up for me. Because I know a lot of people, even people who have taken the mushroom like for 50 years, they're like, oh, I'm still scared or frightened when I go into taking it. But I've never had that feeling for some reason why. Never. Even the first time when I took it, I was not anxious. I wasn't scared. There was like no emotion present. Yeah. But everybody else are always telling me, oh, I'm anxious, but I've never had that feeling. So I don't know why.
Okay. So you was educated and initially supported.
But that's the thing, I think, because I was like working with the retreats and I saw that people were getting positive help, and it was like nothing crazy ever happened. So I think I trusted it so much, like fear never came up when I'm taking it.
That's what I'm thinking. So I'm learning like the education at the beginning is really
important. Yes.
Man. Because I know many people, including myself, you know, I stepped in with not much education about, you know, and it was something brand new, you know, so what I required afterwards was I need to talk to somebody. I want to share with somebody.
Because I pretty much worked the whole year with people before I took the mushrooms, so I felt very good, safe, everything taking it. So there was no anxiety or anything like that.
Okay. And I'm just curious to know, like, what is like the age range? I know you've had many retreats, probably you've been around, so like the youngest to the oldest, you know, is there a younger age where you would say you're too young to have it, or you're too old to have mushrooms?
I mean, honestly, no, I don't think I think even like the newborn baby could take it. That's my honest opinion. I considered giving my son when he was like a couple months old. I did not, but yeah, I considered. I'm still considering it. He's 3 now.
Okay. So you speak very positively and highly of your experiences, and obviously want to share that with others. You cultivate.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's how you got in. You got in through cultivation. Then you took the psychedelic mushrooms.
All right. So pretty much I got in facilitating first. So I think I facilitated for 3 months first, and then I got involved in the cultivation part.
Okay. So now we're gonna just jump, because I'm a cultivator. So we're gonna have to spend some time.
I'm a cultivator too. Let's jump in.
Man.
Yeah.
So how have you found your cultivation journey, man? Like, what would you share firstly?
I mean, to be honest, I would say we started from a humble beginning, and people would tell me that, oh, it would never work like growing it where we are because it's like so hot here. It's like high 80s, 90s, and especially in the summer. We started growing them in the summer, and I was a bit worried just because everybody was like, well, it's not gonna work, so I was a bit skeptical. But then when I saw that mycelium popping up and I didn't see any mold or any bacteria, I was like, let's go. And I think my whole family pretty much, even the area that we live in general, is called the breadbasket of Jamaica. So we live in St. Elizabeth, and most of the farming for the country is done in St. Elizabeth. And most of my family, they're farmers, fishermen. So I think it's in my DNA to do farming. It's something I love. My dad's a farmer, so.
Okay, nice. So when you started fresh, brand new.
Brand new.
All right. So what was like the first techniques you was learning, man? What was you learning?
So the first technique that I learned, well, when the guy that taught me, the first thing he taught me was like the grain. So I think at the time he was using rye grain. So he showed me how to like boil them, sterilize them, and then we used to use those injectable mushroom bags. So we didn't use clowns or anything like that. We would just use the syringes.
Okay.
So that's the technique we started out with. But with the company I'm working with now, we don't use syringes.
Okay.
We just use clowns.
You just use
The clowns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you So yeah, you've worked with the grains. How have you found like the techniques that you was originally introduced to you and that you learned? Are those what you stuck with, or have you had to adapt your?
I have
technique?
stuck with those techniques, but the only difference, the only thing that I've changed is the time that I like boil the grain for, like how long I sterilize them for. So at first we used to sterilize the grains in the autoclave for, I would say we used to do 2.5 hours. But I noticed there was like a lot of contamination, so now we're doing it for 4 hours. But we use those big autoclaves and stuff, so yeah, I think the more time we give them, the better it is. Because we used to have a lot of contamination, to be honest. I would say around 80% contamination. So it's not like we were growing a lot when we just started. Contamination was everywhere.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, but I did notice the difference once we started to sterilize the grain more.
Okay. And then what about substrates, man? What kind of, because I know where I'm from, I always encourage people to work with what they've got around them. So what resources do you have in Jamaica that allow you to make nutritious substrates?
So in where I live, when I first started out, we used to use the cow manure and guinea grass. So guinea grass is pretty much, it looks exactly like lemongrass without the scent. So it's a grass that is grown wild in Jamaica. And I would usually use the ratio around 60% grass to 40% cow manure. But now that we have like evolved and everything, we've started using the horse manure and we stuck with the guinea grass. So we only use two things.
Okay.
I know a lot of people, they add nutrients and they use different stuff, but we only use those two ingredients.
I spoke with some people that was at the event and they were talking about growing on sugar cane and bamboo and other substrates. Have you experimented with?
I mean, I have used the bamboo to grow mushroom, but it was edible, so I use it to grow the oysters. I've never tried. I did try it with the psychedelic mushrooms, but there was like so much contamination, so I'm thinking it doesn't work so well. I did try it several times, and every time there was a lot of contamination.
Okay. And out of curiosity, so we've gone through, you're in the grains, you're doing your grain spawns, you're inoculating them, your horse manure and guinea grass substrates. What about fruiting? What's your, how have you found fruiting, your mushrooms here? It's really hot as well, and sometimes it's just hot and there's no air, so how have you been able to adapt to your fruiting?
I mean, honestly, I think because we clown the mushrooms, so at first we used to have a lot of problem with the fruiting because the mushroom, they would start contaminating and we had to like throw them out. But over time through clowning, I think we've I don't know, they've adapted, so we've been able to like clown them, so now they've evolved to like suit this environment.
Nice.
So it's much better now.
So are you confident in all the techniques now that you're?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years and a couple months, so I'm pretty confident. I know it from start to end, so I'm good.
Nice. And so do you feel, so we've spoken about the benefits of taking psychedelic mushrooms, that it could benefit Jamaica. What do you think about mushroom cultivation? Do you think there's room for, local people to get cultivating and growing gourmet mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, and taking that to market?
I think they should definitely do it for a fact. I mean, also when you grow your own mushrooms, I think you have like this connection with there's like this special bond. So if you can grow your own, I think it's best. Like for me, I don't take more than 2 grams. Like 2 grams, and I'm like, I'm gone, way out, way out. So, and I think I have this bond with the mushrooms because obviously I grow them and stuff. So I think when you grow them, you don't need as much either. And if you can grow them, and I think the good idea is to dose while you're growing the mushrooms. I've done that once, and honestly, I learned so much from doing it. I think there was like this whole download of information in my brain, and sometimes I'm like, well, what did it teach me? But then I'm like, while I'm growing, like stuff will pop up, and I'm like, oh, it was from that trip.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would encourage people like dose with your mushrooms.
Nice. So what do you see? We're gonna wrap it up. I really appreciate the sharing, but I would like to really think, there's a lot happening on the island, man. There's conferences and summits, and America and Canada and Britain, are coming to Jamaica to do whatever they're coming here to do. What do you think is important, or how can we make sure that Jamaican people benefit from the opportunities that are coming with this whole mushroom and psychedelic movement?
I mean, what I think the main thing we could do is like educate the people on mushrooms, and especially like growing it, because a lot of people have reached out to me to teach them to grow the mushrooms. But then like once you tell them like the equipments and stuff that they need, and the price and everything, it's like they can't afford it, so they like kind of back off. But if there was like somebody who, like the government, maybe they could like help the people who are less fortunate to start up something.
And do they have things like that for farmers here in Jamaica, like initiatives to help you set up?
Yeah, they do have stuff like that, but generally it's not like a lot of people getting help. There might be like 10 persons from like each of the community getting help, so it's like needs to be more than that. But definitely the education aspect, it's big, because most people don't even know what it is, so how are they going to grow it or get involved with it,
So you ready?
Oh yes, I am ready. I've been ready. And the first trip I took with the mushrooms, they told me that everybody needs mushrooms, so the whole world needs it, and Jamaica needs it. And what I've noticed also, in Black culture, like we have a history of just like, if you say you're depressed, they're like, what are you depressed about? We kind of push down the mental stuff, we don't deal with it. So I think this can help a lot, especially in like Black countries. No joke.
It's funny because I asked your mum the same question. I says, now what would you think if everybody in Jamaica started taking mushrooms?
Oh God, Jamaica would be at peace. Everybody would be good.
Yeah.
It's needed, man.
Because I always say, just like you, man, when I grew up and heard about psychedelics, it was like, well, that's a white hippie thing,
Yeah,
innit?
I thought it was a white person thing.
And then as I grew up and started to think about it more, but I says, but you see them white hippie people, they were on some peace and love, and it was like good vibes, and I'm like, yeah, we could do with some of that in our community. We could do with some of them hippie vibes where I live, especially if it's amongst our people,
There's a place for it.
Yeah, man. And at the same time, what I've realised, because mushrooms also invoke the warrior spirit as well. They get up and let's make the change, let's make it happen. So I think it will bring things into the balance. Those who are maybe shy, anxious, give you courage to stand up.
I mean, I'm still shy and anxious, but I'm much more open and bold now,
And those people who are open and bold and loud and they're like, relax, man.
Exactly, there it is. Evens it out.
Yeah, man. I think this is how my blue sky thinking, and it's actually blue skies, man.
Yes.
But for Jamaica, man, I just say the healing, the medicine is growing underneath your feet, literally underneath your feet.
Yes, there's so much potential, and as you said, it's like all these foreign companies are coming in, so I hope there is a way for the locals to really benefit from it. It's not like they get the second-hand effect of it. So
I really think that you're one of them. I know I've not known you for long, but just the role that you've played so far in the history of mushrooms in Jamaica, you're part of history, man. Yes. And I feel that this is something where feel free to step up, because like I said to your mum, I said enough times with the cannabis movement and other movements, we'll be like, they didn't invite us. They didn't invite us to the table. And sometimes it's like, well, they're not meant to invite us to the table because it's their thing, it's what they're doing. I says, if one thing you want to do, you go kick down the door and put yourself at the table.
Yes.
or
Take your seat.
yeah, or you just
You get
create.
your own table.
There you go, man.
Yes.
So, but let's not sit here and be like, boy, there's
Yeah, yeah.
opportunities, but they didn't give us the opportunities. Now that people are hearing mushrooms, people are coming over, tourists. You know, this is the time for people to get educated, to get their
Yes,
foot,
yes.
you know, in the market, in the field. At minimum, just having the experience, man,
Yeah.
building that relationship. But I feel there's a place for, you know, many more people in this space, and it should definitely be driven, you know, by Jamaican people.
Definitely.
So the fact that you're one of them doing it, growing, facilitating, supporting, you need to be acknowledged and recognized for what you're bringing to the table, and make sure you just share it with the next generation, you know, and that they get it, and we no longer lose the knowledge where it's just duppy powder and duppy umbrella, you know.
Yes,
Man, we can have mature conversations about it, you know. So I really appreciate you, your family, what you're doing. I look forward to working and building with you in the very near future. I'm really excited about what's happening in the country, but now I'm learning more, getting more of the details and meeting some of the cool people. It's exciting times, man.
It is exciting times. Like, I'm excited for the future also.
Nice, man.
But as I say, we gotta educate our people about it.
Yeah,
So
let's do that. Let's do that.
we need to start now. Guess what I see is happening is like all of these companies are coming in and getting established. So I feel like we're gonna kind of get pushed out if we don't start now. So yeah.
I agree, and that's why I'm here. That's why our mutual friends have brought us together, so we can make things happen like that. So either way, or I'm pretty sure you will be doing it by yourself anyway.
That's it.
But then the
Yes.
X-Men and women come together and join
Exactly.
forces, and we
Yeah,
make it,
yeah.
you know, we make it easier load on ourselves. So I wish you all the best. Keep up the
Thank
good
you very
work.
much.
Don't
Yes,
stop,
yes.
and I'm sure I'll see you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bless.
Thank you.
And you didn't tell us your name.
I did it.
Yeah.
Citigenus.
All right. And how do we
Yes,
find you?
I mean, you can find me on Instagram, Citigenus1, and I'm on Facebook also, but I don't really use Facebook, so it's the same name, Citigenus.
Okay, cool, man. Folks, what we'll do, we'll put that in a little bit underneath, and people then can come and find you. And as I said, with your mumsy, I'm like, folks, if you're coming to Jamaica and you're not coming here and meeting with the folks where the foundations were laid, then you're in the wrong place. Yeah,
I agree.
This is where you start the pilgrimage. You know, like in Islam, we go to Mecca.
Yeah,
you know,
there you go.
You know, this is where you come. You can check out the other places. It's all connected, man. The mycelium is connected us all, but this is where the inoculation took place. You know what I'm saying? This is where inoculation took place, man. So with that said, keep up the good works, and we'll see you and support you soon, man. All right, bless.